Okay, I am now in my room and I am ready to import the data into TimeStudio. I've moved the files that I exported from ProLab into this folder. You can see them here as tutorial subject 1, 2, and 3. So to get them into TimeStudio, I'll start with going into the TimeStudio folder. I can see that I'm already there, so I can start TimeStudio. There are different ways that you can import subjects into TimeStudio. And in this case, we have one data file per participant. Then it's very easy to use the button Add Multiple and select the data files like this. And they will appear here in the list. But sometimes you have arranged your data files in a different way. So you might have one folder per subject, because you might have many files belonging to each subject, like images and questionnaires and stuff like that. And then you can't use the import, add multiple button. But there is a way to import folders as subjects by using the subject menu and use identify subjects by folders. And then you can go to the folder where you have your participants and choose that folder. So you can see that the folder names appear here, and if you double click on the subject, you can see that the files belonging to this one are the files in the folder. And then it becomes possible for TimeStudio to find the actual data file. So in this case, I think I'll just go with the add multiple, like that. And to import data into MATLAB, we will have to use a plugin. And I recommend that you use Core Read File Fast. And that's a plugin that's not as automatic as Core Read File that I recommended previously, but I think this one is a lot faster. It's well worth it. So when you click that one, you get a plugin setting window that looks like this, and we'll just save this one as tutorial 1. And I won't do anything with this to start with. I will just use this one to add it here and press the Do Selected Work button. And then I will get some output here. For the first subject in your selected list, you will get a list of all the column names in your data file. So this is a list over what kind of data you have in the data file. I think we will remember number 1, which is the recording timestamp that we want to use. And then a bit further down we have gaze point X, gaze point Y as 36 and 37, and the pupil diameter left. So I go back and double click the plugin to get the setting windows, and we are now ready to change the values that are in here. So time was number column 1. The pupil was, let's take the left pupil, 48. And then we want to add gaze X and gaze Y, which are columns 36 and 37. And for the events, you can see that there are columns called event and event value, and we want both of them. So we enter 34 and 35. And we can also plot the data to see what the data look like. So I will only select one subject here to see what it looks like. and the plot look like this. And the time looks good. It's incrementing evenly, which is good. The x-coordinates look good. These are plausible x-coordinates given a screen resolution of 1920 times 1080. However, the pupil doesn't really look like pupil data to me. So what has gone wrong here? Well, we'll have to look at the data file, and I will open it in a text editor to see what it looks like. And if I scroll down a bit here, I can see that the pupil size, it is this one, or actually all numbers with decimal signs or decimal numbers are separated with a comma. So this is a problem. MATLAB will not think that this is a comma. MATLAB wants dots. So I could go like this, find all the commas and replace them with dots. But that takes a very long time to do. So there's a built-in function in TimeStudio. If we go back to this, you can see that there's a checkbox called replace comma with dot. So if we check that one, we can see that the pupil data now looks much more like pupil data. Like that. However, I've noticed that from some of the eye trackers that we use, you only get data every third sample. And it looks a bit like here. If we zoom into this one, you can see that there's a red line between dots. And that means that there are no gaps in the data. There is no missing data. However, there is no line between these ones. That means that there are missing data between all of these samples. That's not very good. If you average across trials, then this will cause large artifacts in your data, and I suggest that you interpolate these missing data points. And to do that, you can use another plugin called Core Interpolate Gaps. And we will interpolate the pupil series, time series, and use a linear interpolation. And here you can specify different things, but for now we want to interpolate all the gaps that are 3 or less samples. So we save this setting as tutorial 1, use a plugin, and get a figure that looks like this, and it looks quite fine. And if we plot this data, we can do that with the plugin Core Plot. Use time on the x-axis and pupil on the y-axis, and plot both lines and points. We see that the the data has now been interpolated so that we get lines between all these dots, but it preserves larger gaps in the data, for example this one. And that is how you get data into TimeStudio. So now that we've done this with one subject, we can run it on all subjects. Oh, and if you don't want this dialog, you can disable the plot results button. Then if you interpolate the gaps, it won't prompt you to accept all the changes. And with that done, we are now ready to actually process the data or set up an analysis for pupil dilation or reaction times or looking times, which will be in the following tutorials. So thanks for now.